Hello, welcome to 2 questions to identify if your company needs cybersecurity by the Center for Cybersecurity. This is a talk especially for SINCON 2021, and I, Ethan, am excited here to be able to share with you a bit more about this. This talk is very simple in terms of the goals that we're trying to achieve. Number one, we're trying to demystify cybersecurity for companies. Because very often, whenever we talk to companies, they do get back to us and they ask us, how do I know if I do need cybersecurity? Do I actually need to hire somebody? Do I need to actually outsource it out and give it to a consultant? What are my needs in cybersecurity? So a lot of questions were asked, and this talk was designed to be able to answer these questions and allow you to understand a bit more about when and how you need what level of cybersecurity and at what time. It is really important because the more we demystify it, the more people feel empowered to understand a bit more about cybersecurity so they know when and what is the best time to be able to do what they need in cybersecurity. Number two, we're trying to set the grounds for the need for cybersecurity for SMEs and larger corporations. Like, rather than just simply say, yes, you need cybersecurity, today's talk is all about honing in into when and how, what kind of cybersecurity you need at different points. And once you understand these 2 questions and be able to answer them properly, you'll be able to have a better strategy as to when and how you're going to implement cybersecurity in your company. Number three, it is all about also establishing the basic needs for a company in terms of cybersecurity. So these are the key 3 goals that we hope that you can actually gain at the end of this session. Now, let me give you a bit more about myself. Hi, I'm Ethan. I'm a TEDx speaker, an entrepreneur, an ex-medical student, and an author. So my passion has always been towards building businesses and helping people live better lives. And cybersecurity is a new love of mine because I realized that not only is it something that's beneficial for many people, it's something that businesses need to understand and develop the skills in, but how do we know when and what to do, especially when it's something that seems so far away? And this is why I am doing this talk today at SINCON 2021. And with that, I would like to share a bit more also about Center for Cybersecurity. So Center for Cybersecurity is a Singapore-based company for continuous education, training, work placement, and partnerships in the field of cybersecurity. We're here to provide effective training and education with supportive environments to help companies and individuals understand cybersecurity holistically. And when we talk about this, what does it mean to be holistically? It means we're not believers of hard and fast rules and what is needed in terms of what's politically correct. What our goal is today is very simple. At the end of the day, if you understand what makes you need cybersecurity for your company, we will have achieved our educational goals. At the end of the day, Center for Cybersecurity is here to support you to understand a bit more about cybersecurity, how to use it, when to use it, as well as how to balance it out with the risks of the costs that you actually take up when you pick up cybersecurity for your company. With that, I'd like to explain a bit more about our company. I'm Ethan. I'm the CEO of the company. James is the Chief Operations Officer. And if you were to ever contact us, he's the guy that you'll talk to the most, right? We also have David Schiffman, who's our CTO. He's also the CEO of our training partner, which is Think Cyber, right? He's the guy who created Cyber Arena that really works on making sure that the people on the ground are well practiced in real world scenarios when they're training with Think Cyber. And that's why we're very excited to have them as our training partner. And one of the major reasons as to why we're trying to build this base to allow people to understand more about cybersecurity. And last but not least, we have Ken, who actually is the one who prepared this slides for you. He's actually the one who came up with the 2 questions because as one of the guys who's actually working on the ground in cybersecurity as well as in telecoms, he interacts with a lot with companies that actually require cybersecurity or might require cybersecurity, but they don't know if they need it, when they need it, and what they need it for. Right? So, which is why these 2 questions became really fundamental in terms of how we want to help people understand this big question. Now, let me get back to Think Cyber and give you a bit more about the background of Think Cyber, our training partner. So they are an internationally recognized company that trains all around the world, right? So Canada, Mexico, Switzerland, France, South Africa. I mean, it goes all over the world. And they train also John Bryce, which is one of the top IT colleges in their home country, that they cover the whole cybersecurity part for John Bryce. Now, these guys are really good at the training, and a lot of the lessons and the important information that we gain from them is exactly what we share with our with people like you. So, and with this, I'd like to jump straight into, does your company need cybersecurity? Now, the politically correct answer to all of this is definitely yes. When we talk about this, cybersecurity in the most basic form are things like password protection, at least having things that are encrypted or those which are classified in the right servers and protected with a virtual private network, such that only the people with those can have access to your information. By right, that is the ideal in which most companies should be functioning with. However, we recognize that in the real world, the money and the resources and hiring a person especially for the job is really expensive for a business, especially one that is just starting or is still trying to figure out what they're doing in terms of business, or even for a medium-sized business before they even really start integrating the internet side of things or really understand more about how the IT infrastructure works. It's very hard for them to recognize that they need cybersecurity, which is why it is really important for us to discuss it today. Like, the 2 questions is meant to help you understand if and when you need cybersecurity. So, to go back to the fundamentals of everything, what is the goal of a business? So for many people, it's just making money, right? But yes, it is about making money. It is about sustainability and making sure that you have enough revenue to keep things going. And one of the major parts about this is taking care of your people, making sure that you have sustainability and it can keep surviving. It services clientele, it does operations, it has vendors to work with. A business is a lot more than just necessarily making money. But a key part about this is making money, being profitable, and very often if you were to spend extra money in an area that you don't understand or you don't see the need of, it seems like it's such a waste. And which is why for a lot of businesses, at least that we've met, the interest in cybersecurity is a lot lower than, for example, spending on marketing, spending on things that would be revenue generating. Many people would see cybersecurity as a cost center. And in some sense, before you ever get a breach or an attack, you would think cybersecurity is probably something that is not that essential for your company. And you might be right for some particular stages or some companies. However, with those 2 questions, we hope that you can gain some insights into this. So let's talk about the risks versus the benefits. For a lot of people, and this is the normal approach that I've seen many people take when it comes to cybersecurity, for them, the risk very much is the money that is lost, the amount of money they pay to a cybersecurity staff or the outsourcing that they have done, the inconvenience of actually having cybersecurity measures that makes it hard for a person to access certain data at their whim and fancy, right? They have to use certain protocols, use certain procedures before they can access certain data. Now, it seems like it is a risk because it slows things down, it has some issues, and this is when we look at the benefits, right? When times are good, the benefits seems not to be there. And one of my favorite phrases from as one of the professionals that actually I had a great conversation with was that, cybersecurity is like religion. When things are fine and you don't need it and you don't think about it, it's kind of at the back burner. You don't really think about it. You don't spend time on it. But then suddenly when something hits, you hope and pray that you wish you had it and you had all spent your time and money on it previously, right? So it's quite a funny one because very often precautions and security is something that people don't think about as the first thing because they're always going to wonder, is it going to happen to me? And especially when we talk about post-COVID pandemic world, where cybersecurity breaches are on the rise and the cost is increasing per breach, it is time for us to really weigh out a lot of these different benefits and see whether the risk still balances it out. So with that as the preface, let's talk about the 2 questions before you think about starting a cybersecurity outsourcing program or even hiring a cybersecurity person. Now let's look at the first question. If all your data in your company is either encrypted by ransomware, lost or deleted today, are you able to resume in operations? And if so, how fast can you do it? So when we talk about this, might this be relatable to you? If it's not really relatable, please just let us know. We're in the Discord server, we're in the Discord channel. Just type to us. I'm going to continue in this video, but feel free to ask more questions. What is the last time that you probably had a computer die on you or your phone die on you? How fast could you recover from it? So for those of us who regularly back up our computers, maybe we'll be able to grab another computer and start working right away. But if you had experienced your hard disk failure, all the information being wiped, and you didn't have backups, that's terrible. And imagine that you are the one who actually caused it to happen. That makes you even more frustrated, right? So when we look at this in a company, if we look at this objectively, many of us might not think about the day where we lose the data or it being all encrypted. However, it is really important for you to start asking this question today because it gives you a good idea of why and when cybersecurity will be important to you. So one of our friends' company actually had a ransomware attack that shut down basically all their servers and accounts. How this happened was one of the staff actually clicked on the ransomware and it flooded the whole system and it locked up all the information. They were willing to even pay $300,000 in Bitcoin to the ransomware gang to be able to hopefully unlock it. However, because we know that it is not necessarily safe when you transfer the Bitcoin money that they will actually necessarily unlock it for you, that we were actually recommending that they don't do so. But what happens is we were actually trying to understand what they were going through, and what they ended up doing was they actually had to roll back for 2 years because that's the last time they updated and backed up their servers that was not affected by ransomware, and they had to go back 2 years worth of accounts and redo all the accounts again. It took them 6 months to recover in terms of the accounts department, and it took them a lot of money. Now, where they failed in cybersecurity in this aspect was because they actually did not think so much about the process of hiring, being clear and hiring properly in cybersecurity, which is one of the reasons why they got themselves into this situation. Now, our team actually also interfaced with a number of companies that have been hacked in the last 6 months in Singapore. So these range from small to medium-sized companies in Singapore, and it had a detrimental effect to their earnings, and it cost them a lot of money to try to back everything back up again, as well as to be able to reoperate again. So the lost income that they've experienced, together with the impact of losing the data, was something that was significant, and very often 5 to 6 figures for each company each round. And this was a very startling thing that we've noticed. That a lot of companies did not put in place even the most basic of cybersecurity measures, even when they have 300, 400 staff. And that actually creates the breeding ground for the hackers to come in and happily take up money from you. This is why, for us, it is really important that you ask this question, right? If all the company data is encrypted by ransomware, is lost, is deleted today, can you resume operations, and how fast can you do so? Now, with this question in mind, let's move on to the second question. If your customer data or vendor data or any data within your company is leaked to the public, what are the likely liabilities that you experience? And when we talk about this, again, we go back to the stories, right? So there's a company that said, look, we don't need to be too secure with our data. I want the convenience. I don't want to spend more money than I need to. And what happens is that their data actually got hacked. and their information got leaked, and they got sued by their vendors as well as their clients because this information got leaked. And one of the major parts about this is that the vendors and the people actually stopped working with this company because they felt unsafe working with them in entirety because of what had happened. I also know of a startup that right after the leak, they actually closed down because the leak was so bad and it was medical data that it actually caused them to lose a lot of their credibility within the scene. And not only that, they actually got fined really badly, and the founding team decided to let go of the company as a result. And when you suffer such losses, it could have been preventable if you actually asked these questions earlier and you made some simple processes that would not cost too much and wouldn't spend too much money, neither would it spend too much time or cause too much inconvenience that could have prevented these really bad things from happening. Which is why it is really important for you to ask these questions so you know really the risks in a much more intimate and a much more clear, objective manner. So again, right, if your customer data or any of the data that you have is leaked, we're talking about source codes, we're talking about passwords. One of the major things was phishing websites, right? We have two companies that we know personally that actually had their Instagram hacked. And during the peak season of their marketing, they were absolutely unable to access their Instagram accounts. And because these companies depended on Instagram in terms of the followership, in terms of their viewership, this affected them really badly. And the reason why this happened was because, shared password, and the password was very easy to crack. And what happened was that for one of them, somebody actually brute forced into the system, and the other one actually had somebody who phished the website, had a phishing website, and they clicked on it, they gave the wrong data, they did not have two-factor authentication, and all the information just went to the hackers and they took over the account. Now, thankfully with Instagram, they were able to verify themselves and be able to find their way back to the account. However, the 2 weeks of lost time that they had affected their revenue quite significantly. So that's a question, right? What are the liabilities that you will experience? What are the losses that you experience? This is why it's really important for you to ask these questions. So truth is, these two questions are what you inevitably face if cybersecurity in your company fails. And the businesses might fall because of the inability to answer these two questions and see the value and the benefits of having basic cybersecurity such that they can avoid these massive catastrophes. So cybersecurity is here for you so that you don't have to face these two questions if and when you're being attacked. And the reason why we say when is because at this day and age, most, if not all, companies will eventually get hacked because the hackers are getting better, they're getting smarter, there's more sophisticated systems, phishing emails are getting worse, ransomware is becoming more and more common. A lot of hospitals in the US were actually targeted during COVID-19 pandemic in terms of ransomware, such that they had to pay out large amounts of money. And this is what's happening in the world. Do you want to fall victim to this? This is why it's important for you to ask these two questions. Let me repeat again. If all of your company's data is encrypted by ransomware, is lost, is deleted today, are you able to resume operations and how fast can you do so? And the second question is, if your customer data or any of your private data within the company is leaked to the public, what are the liabilities that you experience? So let's also talk about this. After you have asked these two questions, I would like to go a bit further as to before you even start outsourcing or hiring a cybersecurity person, it is important for you to start evolving this process, right? After these two questions, the next questions are, do I have a clear idea of my company's network and systems? Do you know where your servers are? Do you know what services you're using in terms of your website? What kind of softwares are you using, right? Where are your servers? Who is protecting your servers? Who is the one actually maintaining the servers? Do you have all these questions answered? And then the next point, the third point is, what is the most important data in my company and how am I protecting it? It can be a firewall, it can be hiring somebody to do so, or it can be something as simple as two-factor authentication on a regular level, right? Where you make sure that everything is verified. Well, one of the most interesting stories I've heard was actually one of the biggest scams in cryptocurrency in terms of hacking was actually somebody sending a fake email of the CEO of a cryptocurrency, sending it to his team and saying, can you transfer $5 million worth of this cryptocurrency into this wallet? What happened? Nobody verified. There was no double verification. Nobody even called the CEO to double check what was going on, and the money was sent. And because cryptocurrency is immutable, meaning it cannot be changed, it cannot be reversed, it's not like a bank, the money was gone forever. And this is why it is really important that we are very clear about what are we protecting. What are the things that are valuable to us, and are we protecting them? And then fourth is, are my staff aware enough of cybersecurity, or are they even trained to be so, right? So if a person is not trained, they might use weak passwords. They might expose themselves to risks that will get your server compromised if they do not take the right measures. Now, it is very important for us to recognize that if our staff is not trained or even aware, the risk increases a lot more, especially if I have very valuable data. Which is why it is important for you to ask these questions. And then only after you have answered all of this, would you be able to be ready for a cybersecurity solution. Because before all of that, it's very hard to implement anything. Before all of that, it's hard to see if and when you need cybersecurity solutions, or whether you want to hire somebody or whether you want to outsource this to another company. You asking these questions will help you a lot through this process, and it allows you to actually probably do some of the things before you even get an official consultant in to set up your cybersecurity solutions. So usually, and this is what we see, is that within the first year, when a company is still trying to find their footing, they're trying to find their grounds, you might not need cybersecurity straight off the bat. But usually within the second year, you will start wanting to put some measures in place, especially as you're building your clientele, as you start having more presence. You might want to start protecting the information that you have, which is why it's really important for you to start having these questions answered from the second year onwards. And after all of that, when you start looking at solutions, here are all the different questions you can ask. There's all these different things. There's a lot of different checklists that we can provide for you if you're interested in understanding a bit more about how to take the next steps if you're interested in cybersecurity solutions. Now, for us, we don't provide this for you, but we at least can ask the right questions and give you a checklist for you to decide for yourself and empower you to make sure that you are choosing the right choices for yourself. And after implementation and finding out what solutions you are looking for, it is really important for you to look at all these different gaps that you might need to cover in order for you to secure your system. Again, at the end of the day, we need to recognize that while cybersecurity is a cost, and it seems like it's a lot, we're still trying to prevent you from getting catastrophic failures in terms of data leaks or stoppage of service because you're unable to access the data that is valuable to you. Now that we come to this point, I would like you to think a little bit more about your business and yourself, right? What have you done for yourself to be secure in terms of cybersecurity? And what have you done for your company in terms of understanding what you need and what you need to protect within your company? And this is really the two questions that I wish that you guys can take back today and really develop and think about it so that we can have a better conversation after this. Again, if any questions, feel free to put it in the channel. And if you're looking for more advice or more thoughts about this, feel free to get in touch with us. We're Center for Cybersecurity. Go to our website, centerforcybersecurity.com, email us or contact us on WhatsApp. We'll be happy to get back to you about what's happening. And we look forward to be able to support you in educating and empowering you to be aware and able to deal with cybersecurity for your company. Thank you for being here at SINCON 2021, and we look forward to seeing you around.